Hi, and thank you so much for popping by. My name is Dr. Rita Pobaluzwi, and you're most welcome to this conversation today. For a good reason, when I was creating this clip, the first person who came to mind was one of the former presidents of Botswana, Dr. Festus Mogae, largely due to the fact that Mogae's administration was at the helm of leadership around 2002 during what was the peak of a public health crisis, specifically an HIV and AIDS crisis. Similarly, Boko's administration is also leading the country during a public health crisis, and in this case, the crisis involves both HIV and AIDS and other non-communicable diseases which Batswana are suffering from, such as heart disease, stroke, diabetes, high blood pressure, liver diseases, cancer, etc., etc. These non-communicable diseases are the types of illnesses that are sometimes referred to as silent or quiet killers because they are not as visually obvious to the naked eye. Both Dr. Mogae and Advocate Boko made an international outcry when they were faced with a public health crisis. Mogae pleaded for international help in 2002, while Boko pleaded for global assistance in 2025. However, the difference is that once Mogae made the international plea for help, he also followed through on the country level to direct all possible resources, both human and financial, in order to curb the public health crisis. As an economist, Mogae immediately understood and appreciated both the immediate, short-term, and long-term effects of a public health crisis on the people, his economy, and the country. Can you imagine what would have happened if Mogae had decided to be in denial about the scale of the public health crisis? If Mogae had not immediately connected with the urgency of mitigating against the loss of human resources or the loss of lives? In comparison, and why there seems to be pushback from some members of the public, is that Boko is seemingly using diversion strategies, resulting in attention being focused in other areas of the economy apart from the pressing and urgent public health crisis, which is why some members of the public feel his administration is disconnected from the people at this time and that perhaps enough is not being done. And by the way, although I'm focused on the comparison between Mogae and Boko's responses to the public health crisis, I am in no way excluding the fact that sparks of this public health crisis and the issue of corruption at the central medical stores ignited during Dr. Mokwetsi Masisi's era. This was the time when news reports, private sector news reports, started to reveal the negative effects of corruption on Botswana's public health system, and in particular, the adverse effects of medical stockouts, the unavailability of the much-needed antiretroviral treatment. Now, the question is, why is Boko pressed to have a constitutional court in play? Firstly, I think for Boko and his administration, having a constitutional court will certainly give a sense of confidence about Boko's presidency. The constitutional court is a familiar environment for Boko, and perhaps it will make him sit a little easy, being a lawyer and a human rights advocate. Secondly, having the constitutional court also serves as a kickstart to his presidential legacy, something he can also use to advocate his strength during the coming elections. I was able to achieve this, and I was able to accomplish that during my term. In other words, something of a footprint in the sand. Beyond Boko's personal level, if you look at the regional trends, Botswana is one of the countries that is left behind when it comes to having a constitutional court. As such, in terms of regional trends, he is closing an obvious gap. And just to emphasize that the public are not disputing the benefits or not, the pros and cons of having a constitutional court, the public is disputing the timing of the establishment of this proposed constitutional court, when in actual fact, both the health and education sectors are facing times of uncertainty. The broader issue is that unlike other countries with stronger health systems and more economically empowered populations, this public health crisis will linger on longer because of whom it is affecting the most: the people with minimal means and low voices. And of course, I can't end this clip without mentioning that the United States has recently given some African nations, including Botswana, a sort of HIV lifeline through partnership deals where the intention is to treat African nations as equals and to reduce the donor funding dependency or to reduce the donor funding nature of previous agreements. I think this makes absolute sense for Botswana, a country that is geographically classified as an upper middle income country. Alrighty, my friend, I thank you so much for popping by. I hope you are having a lovely day where you are, but most importantly, I hope you're having a healthy day wherever you're watching me from. Bye.